So I thought I'd get the third installment of my channel in since I have a couple hours to kill or about an hour to kill here at the airport, Philadelphia. I'm on my way to Mississippi, Brandon, Mississippi for this weekend seminar and a event for Cinco de Mayo weekend. So typical airport, Philadelphia. A whole bunch of hurry up and wait is what I always like to call it. So I had quite a few people ask about psychology as far as like matches go, I guess. It's pretty, I always think of it as a pretty much a gray area. You know, a lot of times older talent and, you know, anybody else, you know, if you ask like an older style wrestler, you know, they want to do the whole, you know, establish the face, cut off, come back, and, you know, and so forth. But nowadays, like, you know, if you know your audience and you know your character well and you're getting good reactions, I mean, that's really, you know, what it's all about. Like, you know, you still want to build to a comeback and tell a story of struggle, obviously, you know, good guy and bad guy type of thing. You know, I don't want to get too much into it because I'm not a big fan of like exposing that type of stuff, but like I go over a lot of that stuff in my seminars, which I have one this weekend, which I'm sure I'll kind of go into more detail there. But easiest thing I can say is, like, as a wrestler, if you're having trouble with that type of stuff, know you and your abilities as far as like what you do well, and then it's going to always be like a learning experience trying to piece it together and place it in all the right areas. You know, if you know your stuff and you know what gets over well, that's really the most important thing. You know, as far as like things like nutrition stuff, people ask me quite often. You know, it's a matter of just convenience. You know, when you travel a lot, it's just making the best decision possible. You know, eating on the go is difficult, but it's not impossible. You know, if you have the capability of bringing food with you, that's ideal because you know, it ends up being a lot cleaner for you. Just kind of be picky when you do go out to eat and stuff like that and you're traveling. But you know, it's when I get into town, like I'll do today, I'll just try to run to a grocery store and pick up like a handful of things, like some fruit and water and you know, protein shakes and stuff to, you know, kind of help get me through the day, especially having a seminar and then kind of going right into the show. I'm gonna have to, like, you know, recharge at some point, so I bring a lot of stuff like that and have the ability to just drink a lot of water and stuff. I don't drink soda or I don't drink alcohol, stuff like that. So as far as like, and another thing, you know, people have been asking a lot about is Lucha Underground and the status on the show. As far as everybody knows, as of right now, it's, you know, it's we're obviously don't have anything planned, and I don't know if it's going to be planned for this year or not. I would say the safe bet would be towards the end of the year, possibly winter, you know, fall into winter. You know, we don't shoot during the summer because the buildings are way too hot and the costs way too much money to get an air conditioning system into these huge buildings that we run, and it knocks it down like 2 degrees. So it was really like worthless to do that. So I could imagine if we are shooting, my you know, smart money would be that it's a early next year, but we, you know, nobody really knows. As far as my status with them is, I'm still under contract with them. I never asked for my release. At this time, I don't have any interest in leaving because my schedule's super busy, and, you know, I'm able to kind of freely do what I want. And then people understand that when, you know, when we're in season shooting and stuff, that, you know, I'm unavailable for those times. But so honestly, you know, that's as far as that goes, as Lucha Underground Season 5 is concerned. I know that there are plans for Season 5 that people, you know, are, you know, penciled in, and things are, you know, ideas were pitched and stuff. other than when it actually starts to shoot and when it'll be released. I don't know. So that's all I got for like Lucha Underground. As far as like anything else, psychology wise, I want to get back to like I always remember like Al Snow telling me you don't really have to go out there and tell like good guy versus bad guy story. But then you listen to guys like Bruce Pritchard, and they always say like, you know, there has to be that established. Like, there has to be a real fight feel in the match. So even though it's not, some people believe, oh, there's no good guys and bad guys anymore. That might be true to some degree, and I feel like there's a niche, like a small audience that kind of gets that. But the big picture, really, like there has to be a good guy and a bad guy, because there has to be that comeback, or and that's the story that you really tell. That's the story in every movie. That's the story in every TV series. The good guy is a good person or whatever is fighting from underneath. So that you may not go into the match thinking good guy, bad guy, but at some point there has to be the aggressor in the match, and it has to take over to build for that comeback. Otherwise, people will disengage, then you're just doing a match with a bunch of moves. And although there is an audience that appreciates that style of wrestling, that doesn't really draw big money. And any big time story that's going to draw attention and have the fans invested in is going to be good versus evil, right? So, I mean, just kind of be smart about what you're doing, and the same thing goes for knowing your stuff. Make sure that your stuff fits your character and your size and everything else. I'm not saying like big guys can't do cool moves or fly or anything like that, but it all has to make sense. It's not necessarily what you're doing as it's when and where you're doing it, as long as it makes sense. Like, one thing I don't try to do ever is, as a quote-unquote bad guy or heel, try to outshine the babyface. Like, my moveset shouldn't be flashier than the good guy's moveset, So try to think that way. Also, like, if you do something that does get a good reaction, usually what I try to do is like dirty my way into it, like cheat into it and then hit it. Then the reaction, even though it might be ooh and ah when you initially hit the move, the way you got into the move was dirty. So therefore, it might be like a big reaction for the move. Then you get the boos after because of the way you did it, and the way you're doing the move, and the way you're accepting it, and maybe like parading around about it. So all those things, like, psychology is like, again, it's more about you really knowing your own character and your moveset and piecing it together for the best possible match that night. Especially when you work for a company that brings you back repeatedly, or you're kind of building to something, like, kind of ask around, like, what am I doing? Where are we going with this? What is this match made for? And then move forward. So as far as psychology, it's like, I could do like hours of talking psychology, because I look at it from all different perspectives. But the matches that I most enjoy and the most I become invested in are, like a good guy versus bad guy type match. The matches with a lot of moves and just kind of like doing things for the sake of doing them, like an exhibition. That stuff doesn't interest me. Like, I can just kind of breeze through those type of matches rather quickly and I have no attachment to them at all. Like, if I see it, great. If I don't, I don't. Like, and that's the end of that. It's just like, there's nothing that makes me go back and watch that again. Like, oh man, how did they get into this, and how did they get out of that, and and stuff like that. So my advice for guys looking for psychology, tips and stuff like that, like, go back and research some of the matches that you enjoy the most, and then break them down. Like, sit back, watch them as a fan, enjoy them, then go back and find, well, how did they get from the shine to the cutoff, the heat to the comeback, and then the swerves and dips and stuff that they do at the end for like false finish stuff, and getting into the finish, and what was the business of the match, like how did that end for both people, what did that do? So it's really depending all on what you like, what you do and what you want to do for the fans, you know. So that's pretty much that. So today I'll be on my way again to Jackson, Mississippi. I fly in there. I'm going to try to do another one of these on the road, either in the gym or at the event, hopefully with somebody, and try to get somebody's like an interview to do with them or something. But make sure to comment, comment, and share. Ask more questions, and I'll try to touch base on as many questions as I can. I get a lot of them, and I get a lot of the same ones, so hopefully that covers that. So like with this one, it was more psychology, so I try to go back to that and kind of touch on a little bit on how I think of it, and hopefully that helps you develop your own opinion and style in psychology. Because again, it's like, for me, I don't really think there's any real wrong way if the crowd's reacting a lot. You know, it's kind of like, well, you know, when old guys say, well, I didn't watch your match, but I heard it and it sounded good. Well, if you're getting good reactions, then your psychology is probably on point for what you needed and what you did. So make sure you guys share this and pass it around as much as you can, trying to get as many views and comments as I can so I could be able to touch base more frequently on this. All right, so thanks a lot.